If you've got a black screen on your Roku TV, then it's usually caused by backlight failure, but it could also be a failure of one of the internal boards within your TV, so the main board, the power board, or the T-con, or a failure of the connections between any of them. I also have another video that looks at what to check if your Roku TV has got sound but no picture. In that case, it's almost always a backlight failure. But you can look at the linked video in the top right for what to do in that case. In this video, I'm going to cover what to do if you've just got a black screen and your TV is not responding at all, so you've got no LEDs come on when you try plugging your TV in. The power button doesn't have any effect, and none of the other buttons have any effect on the TV. I'll also look at what to do if you do have the power LED coming on, or if your TV is booting up to the Roku splash screen and then going black. So there can be quite a few different issues here, but if we go through all the fixes from simplest to most complex, we should be able to get your TV fixed. So first of all, we'll just go through a few simple steps in case your problem is caused by a software gremlin. So first of all, just try power cycling your TV, which is a really basic step, but it fixes the issue in 30 to 50% of cases. So all you have to do is switch off your TV and unplug it, then hold down the physical power button on your TV for at least 15 seconds. Then wait for a further 30 minutes just to let any residual power drain from your TV's capacitors, and then plug your TV back in and try switching it on. And see if you see any lights come on or if the TV appears to boot up. If you're getting some response from your TV, then just make sure that you've removed all HDMI connections and all cables other than the power cable from the back of your TV. So there is a possibility that another device is causing problems with your TV over HDMI, and it's causing your TV to appear to have a black screen, so just remove all of the HDMI connections. You also just need to make sure that your TV is getting a consistent voltage, so it can be the case that a faulty surge protector or smart plug is not providing the voltage that your TV needs, so make sure your TV is plugged directly into a wall socket, and you can also just try a different wall socket if you want to be extra thorough. If none of that works, and you're not getting any response from your TV at all, and it doesn't appear to be starting up, or if you just get a flashing LED on the front and it's not starting up, then try a factory reset if you're able. So most Roku TVs have got a little recessed reset button somewhere on the back or the side near the HDMI ports. So with your TV plugged in, just try holding that button down for 10 seconds or so, and then try switching your TV on again and seeing if that helps. If you've still got a black screen on your Roku TV, then it's almost certainly a hardware failure somewhere, and that means that you're going to have to open up your TV to have a look at what's inside it. Before taking your TV apart, you should do the flashlight test. So plug your TV in and try to switch it on, and then wait to see if it powers up. Even if you don't think it has powered up, just get a little flashlight or use the light on your phone and hold it at an angle next to your screen and see if you can see any images coming through your screen. So it's a good idea just to try and bring up the on-screen menu if you don't have any signal cables plugged into your TV, just so that there'll be something for you to view. If you can see faint images, then that means that you almost certainly have either a backlight failure or a power board failure. If there's no images at all and your TV is dark, then it could still be a backlight failure, or it could be a main board or a T-con failure. And if the backlight is powering up when your TV comes on, but there's no picture on the screen, so it looks like your TV is glowing a little, but it's just got a black screen with the backlight on, then that usually means that there's either a main board or a T-con failure. So fully taking your TV apart will probably take you 20 or 30 minutes the first time you do it, but it's very easy to do. Start by unplugging your TV, hold down the power buttons for 10 or 15 seconds. Then wait a further 30 minutes or so just to make sure all power is drained from your TV, so you don't want to get a shock when you open it up. Then put it face down on a soft surface and unscrew all of the screws around the side of the back panel. Some models might just have plastic clips where you need to jimmy a flathead screwdriver in to open it up. Make sure you've got all of the screws because sometimes they can be hidden away and they're not obvious where they are. And then you can just pull your TV's back panel apart and you should see all of the boards inside. Now some models will also have additional tape and a chassis covering some of the boards, so they'll also all need to be removed. Make sure that you note where you've taken each screw from. So all of the screws of a similar type, just put them in a little plastic bag and label them, because you don't want to end up with leftover screws once you put your TV back together again. Once you've eventually got all of the chassis off, all of the bits of tape, you'll see 3 boards inside your TV. So there's the main board, which is a large PCB where you plug your HDMI and other input-output connectors into, and this is the logic of the board. If your TV has got a flashing red light with its black screen, then it can sometimes be the main board that's the fault, but more likely it would be the power board, which is where you plug your power cable into and which translates the voltage into something that your main board can use and also powers the backlight. You'll also see a T-con board which is connected to the main board and which translates the signal into something that the panel can display. Now you want to start by looking at the power board. If you've got a multimeter, you can use that to investigate the individual components on the power board. You can also check that the individual connectors coming off the power board are supplying the correct power to the other parts of your TV, but you will need to have your TV plugged in and switched on for this, so be very careful because there are high voltages going across the board. So if you're not confident, you can just skip that step. What you really need to look out for though is just that there's no damage to the power board, so there's no capacitors that are bigger than they should be. There's no burn marks on the power board. If there are any of these things, then that would just suggest that there is a failure on the power board itself, and the best thing you can do is just to replace it. So to replace the power board is very easy. You just unscrew the little screws holding it in, disconnect all the cables, and then look at the model number of your power board, which will be printed on it, and go onto eBay and just put that model number in, and you should be able to find a suitable replacement for probably about $30 or so. You want to make sure that you always replace a power board with the same model if you can, because you don't want it to be supplying incorrect voltages and currents to the other components on your TV. You also just want to make sure that all of the connectors from the power board to the other boards are correctly seated and are not damaged. So you can just try removing each of the connectors. Most of them will just have a little clip that you push in and then you can just gently pull them out. You should also have a look at the backlight power. So there will likely be some high voltage warning signs, and you'll see little cables going from the power board inside the chassis beneath the power board, which will go to power the backlight. So make sure those cables are firmly connected and not damaged in any way. If you can't see any issues with the power board itself, then you most likely have a backlight failure. So you'll know you have either a power board or a backlight failure if when you do the flashlight test, you see a faint image on screen, but the backlight itself is not powering up. Once you've confirmed that there's no issues with the power board. And if you did see faint images when you did the flashlight test, then you need to remove all of the other boards and remove all of the chassis to get access to the backlights. Now the backlights are the hardest area to access, and you'll have to carefully remove all of the screen. There's also a lot of little plastic clips that will likely hold all the screen in place, because the screen itself is very fragile. When you're removing the T-con cables, they'll have a little catch that you just have to flip up. So don't just try and pull the cables out without flipping the catch up. Pretty much every other cable will have an obvious catch that you can just squeeze to pull the cable out. And you can then remove the screen and access the backlights beneath it. You can then either test the backlights themselves with a TV backlight tester or with a multimeter, just to check that they do transmit voltage across them. If there's a break in the backlights, then they won't. You can also try connecting your power board up to your backlights and connecting it to a power supply if you're confident doing that, just to see if the backlights come on. You can also just use a battery and some bits of wire and just individually power each backlight LED. Something like a 9-volt household battery will easily power single LEDs, so you can just test each LED in turn with a standard battery and some bits of wire and just make a complete circuit with the LED. You should also check the connectors between the LEDs and the power board. And it's likely that you'll find that there's a failure with the LEDs themselves. In that case, it's just easier to replace the entire set of LED strips. And again, you can just look on eBay, put in your TV model number, and find a similar set of strips. It's pretty forgiving about which type of LED strip you use, unlike with the power board. So you should have plenty of choice, and it usually costs about $30 for a complete set of LED strips, and you can then replace them and hopefully get your TV working again. If you didn't see any images when you did the flashlight test, and the backlight was powering up, then the issue is probably with the main board or with the T-con. So again, you can check the main board with a multimeter. You can also check the T-con with a multimeter and just check the little tab connectors that the T-con plugs into, which are connected directly to the panel itself. One way to test whether the issue is with the main board or with the T-con is just to disconnect one side of the T-con and then switch your TV on and see if you get picture on half of the screen. You can then try disconnecting that side of the T-con and reconnecting the other side and seeing if you get any picture on the other side of the screen. If you are seeing a picture on half of the screen with the T-con half connected, but not with the other half connected, then it's likely the issue is with the T-con itself and the T-con needs to be replaced. If you're still not seeing any picture at all with either side of the T-con connected, then the problem is most likely with the main board. But the only way to really be sure is just to test each of the individual components and the output on all of the connectors with a multimeter to localize the problem. So to recap, if you do the flashlight test and you do see faint images on the screen, then you most likely have either a power board or a backlight failure. It's much more likely that the backlight itself will fail because the LEDs in the backlight will burn out after a few years of use just due to the heat that they produce during operation. You can increase the lifespan of your next set of LEDs by reducing your backlight brightness in your TV's menu. If you see any burn marks on your power board, then you should replace the power board itself. If when you do the flashlight test, you don't see any faint images, and the backlight is powering up, then the problem is most likely with the main board or the T-con. In some cases it could be an issue with the panel itself, and in that case you're best off looking at a new TV because the cost to replace the panel is about the same as just buying a brand new TV. But hopefully you can use those steps to fix the black screen on your Roku TV and get it up and working again.